We're really excited to welcome to the stage our next chef. Let's get one more big round of applause for Chef Roman Murphy of Dea.
Thank you. All right. So, Sunny, like she said, I get a lot of questions about this recipe at the restaurant. It's very simple, a little, tedious, but nothing too crazy. It's a pistachio brittle. And I know there's probably going to be people thinking, can I put other things in there? Can I do peanuts? Can I do walnuts? Can I do whatever? Absolutely. You can do whatever you want to with this. You can put no nuts if you want. So to start the recipe, you have like a medium heat. You're going to do butter and a little bit of water. You're going to melt it down till it's liquefied. I don't know if you guys can see.
Oh, yeah, we got you.
So it's liquid, but it's not broken. It's not separated.
I have my first question already. Is that salted or unsalted butter?
Unsalted butter, good question. But we are going to add salt. So you start with the butter, get your sugar. You're going to add it in here. You're going to add your salt to the unsalted butter because nuts and salt is delicious. And just kind of mix this up to start your caramel for your brittle. Another question I might get, so I'll just go ahead and answer, is with your nuts. So I like to crush them up so you can get a thin layer, and there's a nice mixture throughout. You do not need to toast the nuts prior to this because all the heat from the caramel is going to do that for you. So after we get this going, let's turn this back up, go all the way.
And are we going to, when we're crushing those up, are we doing that in like a spice blender, like our coffee grinder or Cuisinart, or are we going to put those in a plastic bag and just kind of pound them out?
I mean, honestly, any way you can.
Okay.
So for us, we use the Roboku machine and we just pulse it a couple times and you get like a nice mixture of crush. But a bag will work great. I mean, you can put it on the counter and just crush it with the bottom of a pan. Just kind of whatever. You don't have to crush them at all. I just do it because I get like a nice, more incorporated type of mixture into the recipe. We're waiting for this to start, getting hot, and it's the fun part. So after you get this kind of melted down, you can add in the nuts, and like I said, you don't have to toast them. The hot sugar will do that for you, and I can hear it sizzling. I don't know if you guys can. I can get closer, but it might burn my face, so I'm not going to.
We had a question about the salt. Is that sea salt? Is that kosher salt? Is it iodine table salt?
So at the restaurant, we don't really ever use iodized. We use a lot of sea salt and a lot of kosher salt. For most recipes like this, we're going to use kosher salt. It really depends. Like the finer sea salt does blend, but you'll need a little bit more of it. So most recipes are kosher. Fun fact with salts, they're so different. We use Morton's brand salt. If you use Diamond, it's in like a red box. It's also a kosher salt. You literally need to use about 30% more than a recipe says. It is ridiculous. So like when we first had to switch over back and forth, or if we get substitutes at the restaurant, the cooks will be like, "Chef, I seasoned it. I don't know." And I'll be like, "Well, was it red box?" And they're like, "Yep." And I'll say, "Well, up the salt, 30%. Like just a good note for you guys. Like, I don't know if you guys can smell this out there. They're starting to get like a kind of caramelization smell from the sugar and the butter and the nuts. So I'm just cooking now until I get to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And once I get to that one, we'll pour it on the silpat and we'll give it, however many hours it takes to get to room temperature and to turn to like a candy so you can crack it up. So as you guys can see, we're starting to get like this thicker kind of thing going on. Right now we're waiting to get more caramelized. I'm about to check the temperature. Like I said, you only want to cook it to 300 degrees so you get like a hard setup for after it cools so you can get a nice crunchy texture. And I'll be honest, the worst part about making brittle and candies like this is humidity. So if you have, after it cools, you want to really make sure you store it in an airtight container so you don't get like that gummy texture that so we don't really have that problem too much at the restaurant because we go through it so quickly. But if you did, like I said, you can buy those little silica pat or gel things and really help keep this crispy.
Okay, and so this recipe, it really is important that we do take the temperature. We're not eyeballing it. We
No.
want to have a thermometer.
So right now I'm at 270, and as you guys can see through the whole thing, I keep stirring this around. It's so that way the sugars cook evenly, and the browning is even, and I don't get any burnt bits. That's not to say burnt things are bad whenever they're intentional. So we do burn things sometimes, but this is not one that we want to. So as you guys can see, we're starting to get like a nice brown color, and a little bit of smoke is coming off because we're getting really close to our finished temperature. I turned the heat down some because I don't want to burn it, because like I said, burnt things are good, but only when they're on purpose. So I just hit the 300 mark, so I'm gonna give it one last stir. And I don't know if you guys can see how nice and caramelized that looks. We're gonna move it over to the seal pat. Just kind of spread it out. And then, like the thinner you get it, the crispier it's gonna be. It will be like pliable at this point because the butters and stuff are still a little melty. But as soon as it hardens up from room temperature, it'll be nice and crispy. So, like I said, this is a super easy recipe, a lot of hurry up and wait, and then that's it. So once we hit here, we are finished, and now we let it cool. And after it cools, you just break it into desired size. So do we have any questions after that?
So what if we don't have a Silapat? What are we going to use? Or we're going to go out and buy a Silapat?
I would buy a Silapat. If you don't have one, maybe a little cooking spray down on a metal pan. I wouldn't put it on paper because it will stick. And then you'll have a little paper in there. Also, Silpat's Amazon. You can get anything shipped to your house. So wax paper also doesn't do temperature really well. So my either spray some pan spray down and pour it directly on that so the fat will keep it from really solidifying on there, or do the Silpat.
Yeah, so the answer, the question was, could we use parchment paper? And you're saying no.
I wouldn't, because once it cools, it's going to really want to stick to this.
Next question is, are we cooling this on the counter, or are we putting it in the fridge?
Oh yeah, definitely do not put it in the fridge. That's a great question. I would definitely cool it on the counter. If you have like some kind of rack, a wire rack or something, you can set it like up higher so you get like a nice even cool. That would be my suggested, because once you put it in the fridge, you're going to get a lot of humidity and stuff that happens from the heat. It's going to like condensate on there, and give you that gummy, like flexy kind of thing you don't want, that chewiness.
Okay, and then approximately how long is it going to take to cool down?
Ooh, a couple hours.
So a while.
Yeah, a little while. I mean,
we're going to make this in the morning.
Yes.
And then we're going to have it that night. Or we're going to make it at night and let it cool out overnight. Can we set it on the counter all night?
You could, absolutely.
And then break it apart the next day?
I would say give yourself a good hour and a half before you kind of break into it. It should be pretty cool by then.
Yeah.
At the restaurant, we make it on big sheet trays and slide it on racks and just let it, hang out until it's ready. So.
Yeah, can we trade out for cashews,
Absolutely.
pecan, peanut?
Yeah, you can sub out the pistachios for any like nut you want in there. Walnuts, pecans, like we use pistachio because it goes really well with the olive oil and the berries that we use, and a little bit of basil. So it's just like a really nice, complement to each other. But you could absolutely, if you're just making this for whatever, pecans would be delicious, cashews would be delicious, almonds.
Almonds, yeah. Mm-hmm. Macadamia nuts.
And just another kind of step for you guys, if you're making it, when it's at this point, like right after I spread it, let's say you want to put a little extra salt or a little extra something on it, that's when you would do it. You would put it right there while it's still hot, and it'll stick to the top. I mean, at this point you could still probably get a little bit of it on there, but also be careful because that's really hot. Anything else before we taste the food, guys? No?
Okay, well, I think we're going to bump out with those samples here any minute, but let's give a big round of applause and thank you to Chef Roman Murphy for being with us this afternoon.